Okay, so here we are on Module 4, and we're continuing our discussion about networks. This module kind of deals with some more of a security issues that revolve around networks, and we're going to start off by talking about open networks. And when we say open networks, typically that means public Wi-Fi networks. So this is, when you go to Starbucks and you log in, or sometimes you go to your community and they have Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi in your, square or whatever that your community hangs out in. You have to be careful when you're using a free network because data can be intercepted. It is possible for someone to come in and sniff or capture all those little packets flying through the air. That's why it's important to use SSL and TLS. We talked about those in the last module. And some other things you can do is, just be aware of malware, which we'll talk here in a second, and clear your cache from time to time, which again, we'll talk here in a few slides. Um, this is kind of a side note that it is illegal to capture your information, even if it's on a public Wi Fi. So if you're in public and walking down the street, someone is allowed to take your picture, right? Your photograph, because you're in public. That's legal. But um, the Wi-Fi issues and stealing your data through the air is not legal, even if it is an open network. So here are different types of network, are different types of malware. These terms should be familiar to you. Viruses and worms are probably the most common. This is where a virus or a program attaches to a legitimate file. It might be like a Word document or a PowerPoint or any other type of file. Once you open up that file in RAM, that virus is able to kind of jump from your Word document to your PowerPoint or whatever else you have in RAM. That's one of the methods viruses use to spread. Worm is a more specific, it's similar to a virus, but it's specific to a network and only replicates inside a LAN, a local area network. Then we have Trojan horses, and Trojan horses, it gets the name from the Greek war with Troy, where they built the giant horse, and a bunch of soldiers got in, and then the bad guys pushed the horse into the castle. At night, the guys jumped out and attacked the castle from the inside. So that's where it gets its name from. Here, this malware disguises itself as legitimate software. So it might look like a little fun little video game that you can install, or maybe it's freeware or shareware that you've downloaded and you want to try something out, and it just came from a nefarious source. It's hard to tell sometimes that you've gotten infected because you think the file is legitimate and the software is working, but behind the scenes is bad stuff going on your computer. Adware, we've all seen this and had to experience this. This is where you've gone to a website or you've gone someplace and all of a sudden you see all these pop-up ads or banner ads, or you know you you're trying to kind of you don't want to see it all, but it keeps popping up in front of you. It tracks where you're going, what you're looking up, and then it gives you ads based on that browsing history. And then spyware, a little more dangerous. This is where if it gets installed on your computer, and it can get installed a lot of different ways, it will track not only where you've gone on the internet, but it also say some of them are keyloggers. So every time you press a key, it records that. That includes when you type in your username and password, or maybe this is a military installation and you are typing in secret commands or troop movements. So spyware can be very dangerous if it gets onto your computer. All right, let's move on. So how other ways people can kind of get access to your computer and your data is through an unsecured connection. So again, a public network that does not have encryption, and most of the like Starbucks and most of those public Wi-Fi's do not have encryption. You could also find you're connecting to a rogue hotspot. So this is where someone kind of sits in a van or a car outside of an establishment. Again, I'm just using Starbucks as an example. And you go down, you sit in, you think you're logging in to the Starbucks website or the Starbucks network, but really it's a fake rogue network set up by bad actors and to make it look like Starbucks. So you're logging in to this rogue hotspot, and all of a sudden now you have connected to their network. So they have access to all of your information, all of your data, everything you do. And you don't know it because you're still browsing the web like nothing's wrong. So you got to be careful there. And then network sniffing. This is where there's packets floating in the air, and there's certain programs, say like Wireshark, that is able to capture all of those packets that are floating. Then the bad guys can kind of sort them and organize them in such a way where they can read your data. So those are all different ways that you can lose your data in a public network. So how do you prevent it? Well, there's a couple things you can do. Always update your browser and any of your software, your operating system, and if they ever send out security patches, you want to do those. So updates and security patches are always important. Then you can use a VPN, and a VPN, in 30-second description, right? It's a link, a private link between you and your destination. And typically this is set up with companies, corporations, organizations. So if you want to log in, if you're off campus and you want to log in to your work, they create a special way to log in using a virtual private network. That's what VPN stands for, virtual private network. And now that connection is secure. So there are ways to do that. You could also enable a firewall. You got to be careful with firewalls, right? Because firewalls control incoming and outgoing traffic. So anytime you're trying to send something out, the firewall looks at it, makes sure it's nothing that the organization says that you're not allowed to send, and anything coming in, it'll look at it and see if it's a DDoS attack or some other nefarious data coming in. A firewall stops all of that action. Okay. So symptoms. So how do you know if you're infected with adware or spyware? Well, there's some subtle signs that pop up. If you're paying attention, you can recognize them. So speaking of pop-up, that's the first thing. Using pop-up windows. So if you are, browsing something and all of a sudden another window pops up, and it could be an ad or it could be another piece of information that you really don't want. That's a sign that you've been affected. And we'll talk more about how to stop that here in a couple slides. Then you got new browser toolbars. So if all of a sudden, right, you got a different toolbar up on the screen, that's a good sign that you've been downloaded and you've been infected with spyware or adware. And then this is really common these days because there are tools to prevent a lot of this stuff. It still gets through, but you don't see it as much. Banner ads, though, or fake antivirus ads are also very, very popular. So this is where you go to a website that you need and want, and you use the website. Maybe you're trying to convert a file or download a YouTube video, whatever it is, and then it pops up with a banner or an ad that it looks like you should click on it, but if you look really closely, it's telling you that it's an ad. So it can be very tricky. And then once you click on it, you're downloading adware or spyware or other things that you don't want. So you always have to be careful about what you click on. And it's easy just to kind of get a little lazy or just not focus on what you're clicking on because we just kind of get in that routine, and that's kind of natural. We all do it. But you have to be careful. You have to stop, think, look, and know what you're clicking on. All right, so there are a lot of different web browsers out there. Most of you guys are familiar with Chrome, right? If you have an iPhone, you use Apple Safari. So Chrome is Google, Safari is Apple. This symbol here represents Microsoft Internet Explorer, but that had so many issues with it. You don't see it anymore. They discontinued it. And now Microsoft's browser is called Edge. It's a new one. It's a slightly different icon, but it's similar. This O stands for Opera. And this right here, that's a Fox, and this is Firefox. So these are two open source browsers. It's always good to have more than one browser because a lot of times certain sites or certain websites are designed to work in one particular browser. And so if you open it up in Chrome and it was designed for Safari and it might not look right. So then you would have to open up a different browser. Or you're trying to get something to work and it's not working, or you can't download it. Sometimes if you switch browsers, all of a sudden it works fine. So you should always have a couple, and browsers typically are free for you to download and use. So on a website, there is a lot of active content, a lot of things going on. Sometimes you got things exploding or things moving, other type of interactivity. And it's all really cool. It makes the internet really interesting, but it also, all that active content can pose a security risk, so you have to be careful. So a lot of times these things are done, these interactivities are using scripting, which can also be good or it could be bad because it could be a adware or some type of malware built into that scripting program. So scripting is a little program. We'll talk about how to turn that off here in a minute. A lot of browsers have add-ons or browser extensions. It's kind of, put an S on that. They're kind of they're very similar thing. They're both really small programs that you can add to your browser to kind of increase functionality, which I'll show you a couple of those here in a second. Flash and Silverlight, this is a flash symbol here. Those really aren't used anymore. They were a little clunky and pose some additional security risks, but you don't see those anymore. And Java is a programming language, so you can, again, sort of like with scripting, you can write a Java program for a website. Although it's becoming less and less common as other more secure methods are developed for interactivity. Okay, so how do you disable this scripting? If this scripting is so bad, you got to be careful. Well, so sometimes the scripting is on the client side, sometimes it's on the server side. Your laptop, your browser is the client side. You're the client. And then wherever the website's hosted on, that would be the server side. So if you want to disable scripting, you can do that. Just keep in mind that sometimes if you disable it, some of the sites might not work, right? So you can maybe temporarily allow scripting on a particular site, or maybe you just want to delete them all, so you're not worrying about all the issues that come along with it. So in order to do that, to disable scripting, we're going to go here, and you can in your browser, right? Click these. I'm in Chrome right now, so yours might be a little bit different. But go to the menu, the drop-down menu, and you want to find Settings, right? And once you find Settings, over here under Privacy and Security, right? And then scroll down to Site Settings. Site Settings down here. And then in Site Settings, you want to scroll down to, where's my content for? Camera, microphones. JavaScript. Here we go. Under Content, we want JavaScript, right? And then here, right now, I'm allowing JavaScripts to be used. If you click this button here, they're all stopped. Now down here, if I'm going to allow all of them to use, but there are certain sites I don't want scripting on, this is where I can customize and say certain websites should not be allowed to run their script. Or I could say no to everything, and then just allow certain websites here to use their scripts. So you can kind of customize that when you disable scripting a little bit. So that's how you do it. Go ahead and pause the video and go see if you can find this. You can change it if you want. You don't have to, but just know that that's where you go and that's how you change it. Okay, let's go back and continue. Here we go. We talked about extensions earlier, extensions and what do you call it? Plugins. Again, they're both very similar. Plugins kind of help you, do special things like, make your watch videos and make your website a little more interactive. You can also add themes. So instead of just having this gray background, maybe I choose a color, or maybe it's going to be flowers or woods or space. You'd have different types of themes. And to get those, again, we can go back to the internet and you can kind of just search for them. And here I am. I'm at the Google store. And here I'm on extensions. If you scroll down, you can look through all the different extensions you can add to your browser. And these extensions are browser specific. So these only work in Chrome. So I would say go Google this and kind of look through some extensions, see if anything kind of catches your interest. Maybe, maybe not. And then over here, this tab right here is different themes, right? So again, here's some spring flower themes, and here's a leopard theme, or horses. You can kind of choose if you want a little more fun creativity with your browser. So again, I would say pause the video, kind of go check this out, and see if there's anything interesting that you like, right? All right, let us now continue. Oh, and by the way, here's a tip, right? Some of these terms you will see on the test, so be familiar with them. Now we're talking about cookies. So cookies are like really small programs that are saved typically on your hard drive. When you go to a website and you kind of customize that website, maybe you're going to a store and you put something in your cart, but you don't buy it right away, or a lot of other kind of customization features. How does the website, that company, remember you when you leave and come back later? Well, those changes are stored in a small file called a cookie. And there's first-party cookies and third-party cookies. So first-party cookies are designed and stored by the website you're on. This is the website you meant to go to, that you want to go to, that you need, right? But sometimes that website might sell your information. So when you go there, that website might send what you do and where you go and where you browse and visit to a third party, which is a different company. And they also then track and know what you're doing. And you're able to control, and this is all privacy issue here, guys. Most of you guys don't do anything that, is really nefarious or too personal, so it's probably not that big of a deal at your age at this point in time. But, we all like our privacy, and we don't want other people knowing what we're doing and where we're going and whatnot. So you can't control that. Again, we go back to, and I'll show you how to do that. We'll go back to our settings here, right? Hang on. Here we go. Here's back our settings, and we're back into the privacy and security, right? This time we're going to scroll down, and where am I? Private security, right? And then where are my cookies here? Site settings. There you go, site settings. And then here we are under content, third-party cookies, right? So you can kind of go in there. And I'm allowing third-party cookies right now, but you can block them. Or you can have them ask you, whether to allow, or some sites you can allow. You can customize again, allow certain sites to send third-party cookies or not. So again, I would say go pause the video, go just look at that, check it out, If you want to block them, you can. You don't have to. That's kind of a personal decision on kind of what you want to do. Okay. So that's cookies. Then we talk about pop-up windows. So this is, we mentioned this earlier, and maybe you've accidentally downloaded some adware, or maybe you're just on a website that uses pop-up windows. It can be very, very annoying, and also a sign that you got something going on. So you can, again, block these also. So if we go back to our settings tab here, right, and we scroll down, and I'm going to go back here. I'm going to come back to privacy and security, go back to site settings, and we want to scroll down where it says pop-ups and redirects. And this is where you can, like right now, I have this set to not allow any pop-ups, right? Or you can allow all of them. It's up to you. But even though I'm saying, hey, don't allow any pop-ups down here, these are some websites that I want to go to that I need, and they use pop-ups. So I have, made these websites exceptions to the pop-up rule that I've set. Okay, so go check that out and make any adjustments that you'd like. Those are pop-ups. Okay, we talked about cookies here and pop-ups. This is kind of a repeat information. Just know the difference between first-party and third-party cookies, right? And whether you want the block up or to block pop-ups or not. Okay. Okay, here, when you go to the a website, you may or may not know, guys, when you go to a website, every single image, graphic, text, everything on that website is downloaded to your hard drive. So if you are doing something naughty, it's really easy for the police to come in and take a look at your hard drive and see what you've been looking at, right? But they do that for a couple reasons. The first time you go to a website, you're downloading it from, say, it could be from across town, but it might be from across the country or in another country. It could be 1,000 miles away. So downloading that website takes a few moments to get all that information downloaded. The second time you go back, though, since it's stored on your hard drive, the website just uploads that website from your hard drive, which you can imagine, the website will load a lot faster. And it only has to download anything that's changed from the last time you've been there. So it doesn't have to download from 1,000 miles away as much content. So your browsing history goes a lot faster. Now, so speed and performance is enhanced, right, on that. Now, what you might want to do, though, from time to time is delete your cache, right? Remove your temporary internet files and maybe remove your cookies and anything else that's stored. So if you go to Control Panel, so go here and type in Control Panel, right? Open up your Control Panel here. And then I know that might be a little small for you, but you want to find the applet. And if yours looks different than mine, right, you can go here under View By, and I can change this to large icons, make it a little easier for you guys to see. We want Internet Options. So find the Internet Options, right? Open that up. That doesn't look right. Oh, here we go. That's indexing options. My bad. I saw the wrong one. We want internet options. There you go. Internet options over here. And again, this is a little small. Hopefully you can see that. But here this says browsing history. It allows you to delete browsing history. So this is your temporary internet files. This is every web page you've been to and all the content. Here are the cookies. And then you can also delete your history. And the history, as you know, and here, when you go to a web browser, right, you click those dots again, You go down to history. Where's history? Right here, right? It shows you a list of the last few websites you've been to. If you click on history, it shows you everything, right? This is where you every site you've been to for the past how many days, right, and weeks and months. And you can group it by day. You can also group it by website. It's kind of up to you. So, like if you go to a website and you really like it, and then you forgot where you've gone, right? You can come back to history and kind of click on it again and get back to where you've been, which is kind of a nice feature. But again, it's easy to track and see kind of what websites you've been to. So if you've gone someplace maybe you shouldn't have gone, right? It's really easy to recognize that and find that out. That's where deleting your browser history comes in handy. You can choose what to delete and what not to delete. I'm going to hit cancel for now. Also, and then you can go into settings here, and you can just say how often you want things to be deleted. You can also decide how much space on your hard drive is used to store those files. Here you can view the files. So here are all the files that you've downloaded, right? And cookies. These are all the different cookies that you have. So there's different ways to kind of access this information. Let's see. And there here again is history. So I'm keeping the last 20 days of history, and you can adjust that if you want, right? And again, some other information here. So I would say, again, if you haven't done it, pause the video, go to Control Panel, Internet Options, and kind of look through those options. And if you want to make changes, you can, but you don't have to, right? It's up to you. But look through it so you're familiar with how to do it, because you might at some point down the road want to delete your history, your browsing history, your cache, your temporary internet files, and whatnot. Okay, now we're moving on to digital signatures. So digital signatures or certificates is a small file that the server has created to prove that it's legitimate and it's who you think it is, right? So they go to a national, international organization and request a digital certificate. So when you go and browse a certain website, your browser says, "Hey, are you really who I'm looking for?" And that digital certificate proves they are, and that cuts down on the chances of you going to a nefarious website. Okay. And so typically, if you have a valid certificate and it's a personal site, you'll see that padlock, right? The little padlock in the browser. That's telling you it's good. Also, green is good. If you go to a questionable website and your browser is not sure that it's safe, it will give you a notice, right? It'll say, "Hey, this certificate is not valid. Are you sure you want to go here?" And then you, as a human being, have to make that decision. Do you trust that website, or maybe you want to go back and double check that it's legitimate and you got the right one? Firewalls. So here we are with firewalls. We talked about this, earlier. Here's the internet out here, and here you browsing. And so anytime you want to get out to the internet, the firewall will check to see if what you're downloading is permissible in the organization that you're in. So like at St. X here, if you go out, go to a website that's about, sex, drugs, rock and roll, violence, right? That type of stuff. Our firewall will see that and prevent you from downloading that information. And also, if there is an attack, if there's a DDoS attack or another kind of malware trying to sneak through into our network, the firewall will help recognize that and stop it. Okay, that's what that is. Windows, which is your operating system, comes with a built-in firewall that you can kind of adjust and customize. So if you go back to Control Panel, right? Control Panel, kind of towards the end, because they're in alphabetical order, there's a applet called Windows Defender Firewall. So Defender is the name of the Windows firewall. If you click on that, then over here, if I try to click on this guy, it's going to give me a request a password because you have to have administrative privileges. So I'm not going to go into any of that right now. You on your personal laptop, though, you're an administrator on your laptop, so you should be able to get in here and change. So you can turn it on and off. You can restore defaults and customize and tell it what you want it to protect or whatnot. So you should always have a firewall, have some type of antivirus software on your program, on your laptop, and that allows you just another layer of protection. Okay. All right. I'm going to pause the video here so this isn't too long, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about proxy servers.